you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love just for a little fun. I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, waking neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Baris, the People's Pundit. All right, it's Friday, Free Will and Friday. We're going to continue talking about economics today for a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about Florida One, and we'll talk a little bit about a lot, all right, because there's a lot going on. I look a little dark today, don't I? Look a little dark today. What are you going to do? All right, anyway, look, let's start with the economic news. It continues, all right. It continues. All right, here we go. I had a little chart pulled up for you guys too, but it is what it is. Retail sales. All right, the apologists are out in full force today because retail sales are flat, as in zero. All right, now that's the month-over-month change. When you take away vehicle, automobile, that component in the retail sales index, it's actually down about 0.8 of a percentage point. Same if you take away vehicles and gas. And then the control group is down about 1.5 points. All right. Listen, we had that wild correction. We had a huge gain, a little drop. I even said, I don't like it, but it's distortion. It's economic distortion. You had this big burst from all this government money. Look, I told you guys, economic stimulus from the government, stimulus payments, there is no evidence that they help the economy in the long term. All right? Am I speaking slow enough for Joe Biden? That appearance again yesterday? Oh, my God. There is no evidence that stimulus payments help the economy in the long term. I can say it slower if you need me to. Where's the government? Where everyone's still supposed to be high off the cocaine here. This is the best we got. The excuses have got to stop. The excuses have got to stop. So the registered voter economic confidence index, I told you this was coming. Well, I didn't tell you. The American people told you.
You called it, though.
Consumer sentiment, just out at 10 o'clock. The survey of consumers. Consumer sentiment index has their words, Richard's words, not mine, Richard Curtin, who runs the index, tumbled to 82.8. Now, it's true it was this low a couple of months ago, but it was coming up again. And by the way, it fell during the uncertainty of the election. It had recovered, actually, pretty damn well after the pandemic shutdown. Let's read a little bit from Mr. Curtin, who, by the way, hedged everything under Donald Trump. Multi-decade highs for this, record highs for that. Hedged everything. You'd hear, yes, the consumer sentiment index hit an all-time high this month, but because of tariffs, it's possible it could hurt consumer spending in the long run. Okay, that's a freaking opinion. Give me the level, Rich, and let's move on. Here's what he had to say. Consumer confidence in early May, and this is the preliminary reading, so God willing, it will, get better. But you think whole coastlines can be, can dry up with petroleum and it won't have an economic impact at all? I mean, what world are we living in? Just like you can turn supply lines on and off like a light switch. Consumer confidence in early May tumbled due to higher inflation. The highest expected year-ahead inflation rate, as well as the highest long-term inflation rate in the past decade. That, of course, is going to hurt what you think your income is going to be, naturally. Rising inflation also meant that real income expectations were the weakest in 5 years. All right. I hate to say I told you so. No, I don't. I love to say I told you so when it comes to these people. All right. There was no wage growth and no income gain under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. 5 years is a notable period here, folks, don't you think? We saw income expectation gains in this index at levels we'd never seen, but even better. They were driven in large part by the lower two-thirds. What does that mean? The working class. The working and middle class. They had a greater or a more positive outlook on their wage growth, on their incomes, their wages and salaries, their financial situation than they ever had under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And we're in the month of May. Like I said on Wednesday, it took months. I never faulted Barack Obama for the recession or, by the fact of the matter is by the time Obama took over, the recession was basically over, the Great Recession. What I faulted him for was killing the recovery. Because America will recover. The American economy will recover if you just leave it alone. But he couldn't do that. And as a result, he got the weakest GDP growth since FDR. He had the weakest wage growth in modern history. When he left office, the Bureau of Economic Analysis actually revised the personal income reports. In the first year and a half of the Trump administration, wage growth was the entire time under Barack Obama. Exceeded. Think about that. And consumers will tell you if you just ask them. Voters will tell you if you just ask them. And now here we are again. All of that progress with wages. I just killed that, I thought. That was on me. All of that progress with wages, this way or this way? No. Right. All the progress we made with labor force participation, all of the progress we made with the employment population ratio, all the progress we made with the transformation back to a goods producing sector, which is so needed. And in it's not even 5 months. Yeah, about 4 months. And in 4 months, roughly, give or take, it's a wrap. Not 4 months, actually. The average of net price mentions for buying conditions for homes, vehicles, and household durables were more negative than any time since the last inflationary era in 1980. before Ronald Reagan assumed the oath of office. Importantly, consumer spending will still advance despite higher prices due to pent-up demand and record savings balances. That's an opinion. That's Rich's opinion. Because we're not really seeing that in these reports, are we? Mm-mm. We got a big boost. The Bureau of Economic Analysis told us we got a big boost to consumer spending thanks to the government stimulus checks. Retail sales jumped 8%. Then it went down 10%. Or it jumped 10 and then went down 8. And it completely fizzled. Alright, this combination of persistent demand in the face of rising prices creates the potential for an inflationary psychology, fostering buy-in-advance rationales and cost of living expenses and wages. No Sherlock.
Good job.
At present, these rationales remain relatively uncommon, and the power of corrective economic policies is now relatively potent. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Genius. Policy commitments to establish full employment. Here comes the liberal pitch from Rich. Are you ready? Policy commitments to establish full employment while allowing inflation to meaningfully rise have never been attempted with the additional micro goals of equity and fairness across population subgroups. That must be what the funders want this month.
True story.
Right?
Yeah.
This is what the funders want this month. Shifting policy language and even minor rate increases could douse inflationary psychology. Indeed, such a policy would be consistent with consumer expectations since 2/3 expect a rate hike in the year ahead. Do you think they expect a rate hike in the year ahead because they know that government legislators are and monetary policymakers are so wonkishly smart?
That was me.
That was Laura. Are so wonkishly smart that they're trying to get into your inflationary psychology? Or do you think we spent $4 trillion and we will soon have no choice but to raise rates? More than $4 trillion. It should be no surprise that consumers anticipate a booming economy over the next year or so. Yeah, that's what they told us too. They expect things to get better. And where he's getting that from is the current economic conditions index is weak, but the actually, wait a minute. He's completely reverses. The index of consumer expectations is 77.6. That's horrible. That's a change of 6.2%. Negative 6.2%. So I don't know where he's getting that from. But this is how you know he's a liberal. That this sentiment among consumers about the future is the natural result of stimulating an economic boom. None of this makes any sense with his own index. He's forced to publish the numbers as they are. And then for the first 4 or 5 sentences, he says what's just real. And then for the next 3/4 of the paragraph, he goes on and on about what he wants, or what the people who sponsor the survey want. Maybe. But does that make any sense with what we saw in the last 4 years? And comparing it to the last 8 years? He went on and on and on. Tariffs this, tariffs that. It's unclear tax cuts will give people better income expectations. It went to the moon. You know, I mean, he just makes crap up as he goes. But the headline is crap. It's garbage. And this is a period where we should be seeing people, they're sitting home. Many are sitting home collecting more money than they could make if they go back to work. They just, a month or 2 ago, depending on who you are, just got a chunk of money from the government. If you're Social Security or SSDI, you just got yours a little bit ago, a couple of weeks ago. Married couples got, what, $7,000 or something with children? Why isn't everybody jumping up and down? I could pay my bills. Things are great right now. They're not, because things aren't great.
They're petrified still.
Somebody sent me too in response to something I said, you know, we're going to have 10 years of economic growth again. Not like this, we're not. Not like, are those the same experts who told you that tariffs were going to skyrocket the cost of lumber? That only happened under Joe Biden. The tariffs, I mean, there is no tariff threat anymore. The tariff strategy did not send the price of materials and raw goods to the moon. Those people told us it would. Are they the same people who told us we're going to enter a recession at the end of 2018? All year in 2019, we were going to head for a recession? And then into 2020, when the housing market boomed. By the way, listen to what he said. Outside of his BS, just look at what he said about the numbers with people who are saying they're going to buy vehicles, they're going to buy homes. In 2020, at the end of 19 and 2020, what the Trump economy was missing was a resurgence of the housing sector. That was the fourth cylinder that wasn't firing yet. So the economy just wasn't firing on all four cylinders. We had a very tight labor market, strong demand, strong wage growth, a real unemployment number, not one inflated by methodological gimmicks or deflated, I should say, by methodological gimmicks. Truly tight demand for labor that was causing upward pressure on wages, which was causing wage growth to rise at the fastest pace since before the Great Recession, which was causing people to say, you know what, I feel good, I think I'll build a home. I feel good, I think I'll buy a home. I feel good, I think I'll get another car. That's how this goes, folks. It's not rocket science. You have a strong labor market. It creates upward pressure on wages. Wage growth creates confidence to buy durable goods, homes, vehicles, which you could call durable. I mean, planes are durable goods. Long-lasted manufactured goods made to last for 3 years or more. Ta. That's the definition.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. And in 2019, at the end of 2020, HMI is going to the moon, setting new records. We're on the show saying, here it comes. Here's the fourth cylinder. Then they get their COVID crisis. Everybody decides we have to close the economy. Fine, whatever. Trump's instincts were not to close the economy. The CDC, though, gave governors the cover to do it, to do something we've never done in the history of human civilization. And we do it, whatever. The president pushes to reopen. All these index crater. They all plummet. And then something happened. Despite big blue state governors like Gavin Newsom and Andrew nursing home murderer Cuomo,
Zing.
even red state governors in red governors in blue states who hated Trump, Larry Hogan, I'm talking to you.
Call him out.
I'm talking to you in Massachusetts, and other Democrats like Whitmer killing her metro areas. The highest insured unemployment rates in the country. The 2 out of 3 top, Bolton, Michigan. Nevada nearly killing Las Vegas. And despite all of that, because they want to win an election, American ingenuity persists. The payroll protection program works. Despite some bumps, largely it works. According to the National Federation of Independent Businesses, it saved more than 8 in 10 small business jobs. Less than 2% did not get their loan requirement needs. Meet their lending needs. I mean, government programs don't really work. They don't have a history of working. That is a successful government program. And yet they still stay shut because they want to win an election. And yet all of these indicators continue to come back. And you know, guys, I did not like the insured unemployment rate. That was because of the CARES Act, which Trump signed, the original CARES Act. Democrats, they tend to get their way. And that is when we started to pay people to stay home all summer long. Why? Because they wanted people to be unemployed during the summer before the election. It's that simple.
Because if you're doing good, you're not going to
Because they
re-elect.
don't give a damn.
I mean, you're going to re-elect the person who makes your life good.
They don't give a damn about your employment situation. They did this to win an election. Unemployment claims, not great. And yet all of these indicators still attempting to come back. It really was a thing of beauty. And in the end, the president loses re-election. We get a new president. And these indicators just start crumbling again. The builder confidence starts falling, which of course affects new residential construction, which of course affects new home sales. And that was it. Consumer confidence was artificially inflated from all of these guys. People got 3 waves of stimulus checks, and this is the best we can do. Do not drink the Kool-Aid. We didn't need any government stimulus to be way above these levels. Way above these levels. This is not going to be a 10-year period of prosperity if this continues. That is a load of garbage. It's a load of crap. And I can't even believe. And one thing happened under the Trump presidency that was new even for media, which is the slanted bias propaganda seeping into financial reporting. Financial reporting was really about numbers. It just was about numbers. Political reporting has always had a bias. It has always had a slant. It's getting worse. It's not even bias anymore. It's propaganda. But financial reporting weathered those ideological leans. They weathered it. And it changed.
At the end of the day, you're going to ask who really benefits from all of this chaos.
You know, which it's 11:22. I guess I could kind of early on just move into this next segment on, because now, you know, right, during the shutdown, it was, you know, what, the original 14 days to slow the spread. I mean, it's important we revisit how this happened to us, how they got us to commit economic suicide. Now we are being artificially propped up by government money that's never going to be enough. We don't have it. Of course, inflation's not going to rise. Well, how could we delude ourselves into thinking we're immune from inflation? It's only because the rest of the global economy is also living by these like fake money rules. But eventually, it has to come around. And you can't have, Laura, you cannot have commerce being impacted by the pipelines drying up in major portions of the country. By the way, guys, I got to tell you, why is it so important from Texas to North Carolina? The South is the economic engine in this country now. Things have totally reversed from the years of the Civil War, folks. They don't pick cotton down here anymore. The Northeast is dead. Economically dead. The Midwest was decrepit. That's why Trump was able to win it in the first place. The South and the West are the primary drivers of economic growth in this country. Which is why it was so amazing that we saw West Virginia and Pennsylvania in those reports about GDP leaders. The biggest gains in GDP from 17 to 19. The biggest gainers, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Of course, you always have your usual suspects up there. Texas, Florida, right? Those are the usual suspects. Because they're smart. They're smart economic states. So they always attract business. But that Appalachia region of the country, before you really get into the heart of, the South, that was dying. All the way up to the Mid-Atlantic and Pennsylvania. Dying. The Northeast, dead. There is no housing growth in the Northeast anymore. The economic situation is dire, decrepit. There's no ingenuity anymore. Because that's what these policies do. They sap ingenuity. And the labor capital has left. It's left. It's gone. It went to the South. You're not going to be able to, turn that around, but we certainly didn't need this. And don't forget, 14 days to slow the spread. Now that went to an infinite period of time
It went from
until there's zero virus particles in our society.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I mean, the arrogance in this viewpoint, the arrogance that we could somehow even achieve that. An immunity, a population immunity, that's different. But that's not what they're talking about here.
No, they're talking about
They're
zero
talking
viral
about
load.
they're talking about zero viral load. Zero. And it doesn't matter what the science or the data says. I mean, this is like this giant con where we all have to get the public to, listen to science and data like it's a religion and then manipulate what the science and data says. Therefore, you can manipulate what everybody believes.
Hey,
That's the equation, man.
I've seen this cult before. Everybody drinks the Kool-Aid.
It is a cult.
And then dies.
It's a cult. It is a cult.
I'm not signing up.
This
for
is
it.
Heaven's Gate cult like stuff.
There we go.
I'm dead serious. No pun intended. Because we're the damage we're doing, it's not hyperbolic. It's not hyperbolic. Anyway, now the CDC, after all this, comes out and says if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask indoors. I'm a little confused by this. Is why antibodies should have always been the driver of policy. That should have been the gauge. Antibodies don't make money though, guys. Right? Antibodies don't get pharma rich, big pharma rich, who pack stuff the pockets of these dirty lying politicians and their corrupt pieces of garbage and bureaucracy like Anthony Fauci and his friends. Antibody testing doesn't make them rich. No, vaccine development makes them rich. Production of PPE makes them rich. Pharma, though, really gets rich off of treatments and vaccines. Patent treatments and vaccines. Now, if we all went with antibodies as a gauge, then we wouldn't have to worry about whether Bill Maher was vaccinated or not and now has to cancel his first show in forever because he somehow was vaccinated and yet still tested positive for coronavirus. So how could the CDC tell everybody in good when there are these cases, Laura? Which one is it, Laura? Which one is it? Are there antibodies or are there not? And I would tell you this: the science that we have read so far, the studies that we have read so far, do not only show that really if you've been infected or you have been vaccinated, although it was the Pfizer vaccine in most of this research. I don't know what Bill Maher got. Actually, I do. He's New York, isn't he? Isn't Bill Maher New York? That's Moderna.
I think so.
That's Moderna. They got that contract for most of that state. So if he's California, I think they have both in California. And I'd really have to double check. But the research we've seen on these vaccines, the Pfizer vaccine, not only the variant we know, but the 4 other variants tested, it did. But what's the most probably the safest way to make sure that you don't get coronavirus? Recover from it. If you have natural antibodies from recovering from this virus, then you're very, very unlikely. As a matter of fact, I don't know that there's a real sound case that we could say, because the 31 or 32 now cases that we found of reinfections, a lot of them are questionable because of the testing regimes that were in place when they were so-called diagnosed the first time. Those tests may not have been accurate. That's a reality we have to face.
Yep.
So I'm not even sure that's even legitimate to talk about. We're talking about such a tiny, tiny decimal point here, folks. Antibodies should always have been the measure for all of this. But why won't they do antibody testing? Why are they spending trillions of dollars on government stimulus and government goodies and tons of money for vaccine development, right? Or vaccine administration, really?
Because I bet a lot of us do have the antibodies. That doesn't make money either.
I'm pretty sure. You'll never know for
That's
sure.
the cynic in me.
Yeah, you'll never know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I gave us all COVID when I took that trip in December. Mm-hmm. All right, and we just really wasn't widespread. I couldn't smell, which is common when you're. I mean, this idea like, oh, I can't smell, I have COVID. Like, when your nose is stuffy, you can't smell. What the hell are you talking about? All right, but mine was in the chest, and I couldn't smell. And in your mouth, my mouth, you couldn't taste. And then I got everybody sick, and it lasted a while, right? Even the baby got it. But you'll never know because there's not widespread antibody testing. It makes no sense to use the vaccination as a gauge for whether or not, like this new CDC guideline says, you can wear and not wear a mask indoors. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right. With that, it's 11:31.
Yeah.
I just want to say, this was really all avoidable. This was all avoidable. And by the way, our death toll is the death toll that Anthony Fauci worried about. If we didn't shut down, Mr. President, there could be 500,000 people dead. That's what he said. 500,000 to 2 million. Based on a flawed model, not even believed in by the author of the model, who ran around, committing adultery while everybody else was stuck on lockdown. And then now disgraced Mr. Ferguson.
Cuomo achieved that almost by himself.
I know, and that's another thing. Mm-hmm. That's another thing. You should just take those nursing home deaths off the top because they're not correctly characterized as COVID deaths. They should be characterized. What's the code for democide? Death by government. Those are deaths directly resulting from a government policy or action. That's democide. R.J. Rommel, baby. Mm-hmm. That is the definition of democide. Death by government. Great book. Great book. Anyway, it's 11:31. Let's move on to some polling stuff, shall we? We'll have Don up here at 12:15. And before I do, guys joined the Zoom call yesterday on the Locals community.
Oh, that was so fun.
peoplespundit.locals.com. That was a blast. I'm going to head and call it a success because we had an attendance rate that's caused me. When you get a Zoom, like a free Zoom account, you're only allowed a certain amount of minutes and you're only allowed a certain amount of guests. We had to get like a business Zoom account because we exceeded the pound. Don't leave me hanging here. We exceeded the guest list and we exceeded the time. We all just rambled in a community for 3 hours almost yesterday, and it was great. Mm-hmm. It was great.
Just hanging out.
It was just hanging out, having good conversation, talking about different things. And by the way, for those, I got your Virginia thing. I have to put it up. I have to first upload it to Big Data Poll. This way it's in a PDF format you can link it to. And then also...
We're doing it later in the evening next time.
Yeah, we'll do that later in the evening next time because a lot of people were at work and couldn't come. A lot of people were at work, did come, but couldn't participate because they didn't want anybody to know they were on the Zoom call. I love it. All right, but I don't want to do that to you.
I just want to say, I hope we didn't get you in trouble.
Yeah,
all right?
I don't want to be responsible for two things. One, you getting in trouble, and two, hurting productivity in America because Joe Biden's doing a great job of that all by himself. So we'll leave that alone. Oh. All right, so in any event, and you know what? That's not fair because it ain't him. Mm-mm. It ain't him. All right, it's he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything. It's the people around him who really, when it comes to the economy, they're way out of their league. They don't understand. They have goals that are like their goals are different than the Trump administration's goals. So Trump wasn't trying to change society. Trump's goal was prosperity. These people have a very different goal. Their goals are social, not economic. Right? Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it. They're social, not economic goals. Trump believed that a lot of our social woes, and it's not just Trump, it's most people who are, among this worldview, his worldview, right? Or, basically, Americanism. I think it's right, it's accurate. I turned this off already, my God. I think it's right or accurate to characterize it as Americanism, which basically states, and I didn't know, it didn't go down, which basically states that most of the country or any nation's social woes can be rectified with prosperity. Mm-hmm. Because of a lot of these problems of injustices, whether they're economic or any other kind of social injustice, they stem from an economic depression of some or multiple groups of society. So if everybody's prospering, then there are less problems. And there's a lot of research to back that up. The relationship between crime and poverty. The relationship between health and GDP, right? There's empirical evidence to back that up. The other side of this, which is one half of the people who surround Joe Biden, because the other half just pretends like they care about social justice, and they're really just making sure you get stabbed with a shot so their friends get more money. All right. The other half believes that social change needs to be forced by government. All right. And that the prosperity is secondary, really. In fact, it could be sacrificed for these social changes, which is what we're seeing. And that's what we did under Obama. We sacrificed prosperity for a vision, for hope and change. All right? And they don't believe that the pie, the economic pie, right? They don't believe that it can grow. They believe it's a finite number of slices, and it's the government's job to slice it up for you and distribute it as they see fit. And that typically requires hurting some and bringing them down to the level of the others because they can't bring the others up. You understand what I mean by that? The only way, that's what Samuel Adams called schemes of leveling. That's what he called early socialist-like ideas. Or government-centered ideas to make equal station in society. Government really doesn't have the power to do that. That's a scheme. All they can do is hurt others to bring those down to the level of those they claim to champion. Schemes of leveling, which he said were wholly unconstitutional in this great republic. All right, so with that, I wanted to talk about polling, but I just had to get into that.
No,
I just had to tear into that. It's Free Will and Friday.
Well,
this
somebody
is not
also
really...
said what happens when they start trying to mandate vaccination of our children.
Yeah, this is something Laura and I speak about a lot. So that's not happening with our kids. I'm telling you right now, that's my hill to die on. All right?
That is my hill to die on.
It's my hill to die on. You're not jabbing my perfectly healthy children with something that's brand new, that hasn't been widely studied. Don't give me this widely studied crap. It has not been widely studied.
And not for a long enough period of time.
They're talking about jabbing kids before they even started trials of children. Even if they do, I don't know if that's valid. The kid thing that was reported the other day, I don't know if that's valid. But even if they do, we still don't, it's still not studied. A trial isn't really a study. We know from antigen method vaccines that problems with vaccines typically tend to develop in the short term. And if there's damage, we'll know about it. But problems with mRNA vaccines, we don't know, because this is the first time we've ever used them. All right? Contrary to popular belief in something that's not true. mRNA vaccinations, we don't know the mid to long term or even short term impact. And I'm telling you, what the media says, they can say it all they want and everybody can, shut down and crush dissent all they want. But there are people out there right now who will tell you there are short-term impacts. There are immediate impacts. And then there are others like Bill Maher who says, yeah, it impacted me. It didn't do jack. It didn't impact me at all. That's the problem, actually. Apparently, it didn't work. But of course, let's wait to see the full story on that. And I can't imagine that all vaccines are equal, or I really don't believe, from what I know, that the Moderna vaccine is the same as the Pfizer vaccine. I simply don't believe it. I just don't. All right. Yeah, but that's my hill to die on. My children can't even carry high enough viral loads to infect their teachers, according to actual science. Actual science, just like the actual science that existed about severe acute respiratory syndromes that we have seen before. So this novel virus, when it comes to children, isn't that novel at all. The petri dish theory, or the petri dish fear was irrational. It was irrational, and now we know it's not warranted or substantiated at all. So you're not jabbing my 9-year-old daughter with a gene vaccine. No, thank you. Not happening.
Because science proves that if you let the child get the virus when they're young, they're immune to it when
without
they get
children
older.
getting the herd immunity, Laura, that's a serious problem.
Up for a repeat.
It's a serious problem for the rest. Yes. What we are trying to do is set up. They want this to be like the flu. Mm-hmm. They want this to be like the flu. If we do not develop this immunity in the population, then we will. And many of you know this. I know my listeners know this. They're smart enough to read literature on their own. Mm-hmm. You guys send me stuff. I've even had conversations with doctors that you guys have referred to me to talk with, to speak with. They want this to be like the flu because they're going to make a ton of money off of it. They're going to make a ton of money. I can't believe after all these years about the left, big pharma, big this, big that. They are now complete and total stooges for them. Complete and total stooges. They believe everything big pharma tells them without scrutiny, without skepticism at all. They have completely flipped. They believe everything the FBI tells them without scrutiny, without verification, without skepticism. They believe everything the CIA tells them without scrutiny, without skepticism. They just take it all on face value. That is not the left that I grew up with.
Nope.
Which was badly needed in society. At that time, conservatives were the ones who...
Nope.
I view them as a bunch of liars who have failed this country on every major national security test. Every major intelligence test. They have failed in their history. It's so easy just to say, well, you don't hear about the ones they stop. As Rand Paul found out, thanks to Edward Snowden, who didn't get a pardon. In fact, that mass metadata collection didn't stop anything. Not a single case the FBI could point to. Or any other, by the way, the agencies could point to. Not a single instances of thwarted terrorist activity due to metadata collection. Nothing. They just got all that data and your personal information for nothing.
You disappeared for a second, but you came back.
It's well, that's probably because I put up my my thing. You know what? And I'll get rid of my Twitter, and that'll help. All right, so I can get rid of Richard Curtin here. We talked about that. I can't even look at that freaking chart. I can't even look at it. I hate hate it, man. It's so obvious. All right, it's 11:44. I got a lot of questions on locals about the Arizona audit. All right, and somebody had sent me an interview with, and this is a perfect example, an interview with Steve Bannon that did with Boris Epstein, if I'm saying his name. And anyway, the headline reads, Maricopa County ballot batches off by 17.5%. Likely Joe Biden did not win Arizona. Well, I told you right off the bat that if signature verification was typical, Joe Biden would not have won Arizona. But here's the deal. This is Maricopa County. Apache and Pima, okay? Apache and Pima had worse problems than Maricopa County. And what they are saying here, and this is not what they're saying, this is coming from a letter, is that we're seeing these huge discrepancies in chain of custody. All right, pink slips versus actual number of ballots, the recorded number that was counted versus how many they can actually account for. I told you it was the Wild West, folks. Everywhere. If man were an angel, we would not have a need for laws. You cannot let people do whatever it is the hell they want to do unobserved and not expect there to be massive problems. I'm not even saying it out of, like a fraud, because it's fraud. I'm telling you, these people are not exactly super competent, So there can be all of these mistakes, especially when you make huge, significant changes to how you conduct elections and you expect the state to change in 2 months. Which was the red flag I was waving the entire time 2 months before the election. We weren't built like this, and there were going to be massive discrepancies. The rejection rate in Arizona, let's talk specifically about Maricopa County, was abysmal. However, you would expect it still to rise when there's an increase in mail-in voting. Of course you would. Or you would expect it to at least hold steady. You would not expect a dramatic decline. This is a state that has dealt with mail-in voting for years now, just like Florida. 80% typically come from mail-in voting. All right, so these numbers were a little bit weird. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on What Are the Odds before. Even the Democratic expert himself said that the subsample that he reviewed did not appear to match in about 10 or 13%, something like that. Mm-hmm. So that would be obviously more than enough just in Maricopa. But I'm telling you, the problems were really in Pima and Apache County. And by the way, Cochise or whatever, there were troubles there too. Cochise, however you say it, whatever. And I heard about troubles with Navajo. I'm not just picking on the blue areas, but Apache was a disaster. Apache was a chain of custody disaster, according, and a verification disaster. So they're not even doing that. Now, all that being said, I will tell you that there has been very tight-lipped operation over there. All right, the chairwoman of the Republican Party doesn't know so far what the change is. And I'm not saying that because she doesn't know. No, the Cyber Ninja is doing a very professional, tight-lipped job. And all of these, I'm cautioning you to be careful with all of these wild things that you're hearing. The vote could be off by this. You don't know that. They don't know that. We don't know that. Nobody knows that. So I'm interested to see what they find. And it's interesting to read this. I mean, it's incredible. You can see some of the discrepancies are huge. And it's not normal. Because that's what you're going to hear next. Oh, it's normal. Oh, that's normal. It's not normal. It is not normal to see huge discrepancies. 200 ballots listed, 158 accounted for. That is not normal. Yes, it's normal to have mistakes, and yes, mistakes happen. But it is this wide range of... It's not. Which is why chain of custody is so important. This is why chain of custody is so important. This is why integrity deadlines are so important. And of course, verification. And, again, I just caution you to do that. What happens if Arizona does come back, which is the most asked question on all of my social media feeds and inbox? What happens if Arizona, the state Senate audit, finds out that Donald Trump won the state of Arizona? Here's the answer. When it comes to the historical record and the 2020 election, nothing. If all of these states were pressured to do an audit and they all found similar results and Donald Trump won the election, nothing would happen. No election is going to be overturned. It will go to Joe Biden's legacy that he's illegitimate. Absolutely it will. No matter what the media tries to do. If Arizona falls in this audit, you better never watch Fox News again if you're a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. Never again.
But I
minus Tucker.
Well, we love that.
Listen, any criticism I give of Fox News does not include Tucker. I should have that as like I should have like a banner, right? Yeah. All criticisms, Fox News, do not, right? Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit wants everyone to know all criticisms of Fox News do not include Tucker Carlson tonight. Because he's the only normal one. And he's got authority to do it. That's why Bill O'Reilly was so allowed to go off the reservation. He was their flagship show. He was their moneymaker. He was the moneymaker. Now Tucker is their moneymaker, so he's allowed to or at least for the most part. Mm-hmm. But no one's ever truly independent if you work for one of these corporate media companies. You're not. You're just not. I mean, you're never going to have true independence. Not unless if you're a media figure or somebody in my line of work. In fact, the only way you're going to get true independence is if you have a locals page, which you can help us with at peoplespundit.locals.com. No, I'm serious, because I was reminded of a story from Dave Rubin, and who knows Tucker. And I don't want to say things, but then I don't want to give away things. But the bottom line is, that is the point of locals. So media people and journalists can be independent and be free. Mm-hmm. And Substack and others. I just happen to like locals better because I think locals there's just far more you can do for your community on locals. Like if you have a Substack, and I subscribe to Glenn Greenwald's, for instance, and I think I still have Matt Talib's. If you subscribe to those kinds of platforms, you get their work. That's great. But you can interact and talk with more on locals. So if Glenn was to get a locals page and then he had a report that he would put out, he could put out through a blog or something, right? That only locals members could see. And then they'd be able to interact with them. That really is the only way to get. And he's working on it through Substack. You can do it through those platforms too. But it's the only way to be independent. Otherwise, guys, you got to answer to the corporate sponsors. You got to answer to the top floor. You got to answer to the Murdochs if you're Fox News. And if you're in any of the other ones, God help you. Even in Newsmax, they still have people they have to answer to. They just have a lot more. What's the word? Newsmax. They have a lot more. Honestly, Newsmax now is trying to be, and is more so, what Fox pretends to be. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's amazing to me that the left hates Fox News because Fox is not a conservative place. It's not.
Nope.
It's not culturally conservative. It's not, and their worldview is more like they're bushies, man. They're bushies. They're bushies. So I mean, they don't represent the vast majority of the Republican Party, which for the last 7 minutes I'd like to talk about. Byron. No, the party is not moving on from Donald Trump and Trumpism. NBC News also told you that there were more than 20+% of Republicans who supported the impeachment of Donald Trump, as did all of these other deeply flawed, if not totally bogus, media university polls that you keep tweeting for your little memos in the Washington Examiner or wherever the hell it is you write from. Like I don't read it. Because, frankly, I can't get through it with all the freaking ads you have popping up on your website. I don't want it to crash my browser, man. All right? But I get the gist from what you put on Twitter. Byron and the rest of you. I can't believe I still have to say this all this time later. I mean, sharpen your tools, guys. Sharpen your tools. The polling failures are driven by many things, but in large part, their inability to reach a representative sample which specifically hurts Republican constituencies. Specifically relevant to Republican constituencies. Response biases, social desirability biases. So what you are seeing is Metro Republican America. If 25 to 30% of Republicans wanted to see Donald Trump impeached and removed from office, then why did he win a historic share of the primary vote? Why did he not have a base problem in the general election? So you're telling me 25% wanted him removed from office, and 15 to 17% of those people still voted for him. Or perhaps you guys just suck at reaching Republican voters, which is why your state polls are wrong all the time. And your national polls, frankly. They weren't great either. We had the most accurate national poll for the Epoch Times that we conducted for the Epoch Times. Right on the nose. Maybe they're not moving on. Maybe they're moving on from you, Byron. Maybe they're moving on from you and the pollsters they associate with the media. Because you guys have done such a terrible job at representing them that they no longer trust us at all and don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to click on a survey. They don't want to answer a text message. They don't want to talk to a machine. They don't want to talk to a human being. They want to give you the middle finger and tell you to stick it. It's just all of these months later, it is incredible to me that I still have to explain this to them. I feel like I'm talking to little children who are going, la, 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 la.
You are, though. That's what it is.
This is an incredibly immature field, Laura.
What was that liberal woman that just turned around and said, I want my vote back?
Oh, Naomi Wolf, the one I retweeted. She's Dr. Naomi Wolf. Yeah, there are people, you know, what's incredible. I mean, we always, all these polls always focus on the Republican base, right? Nobody's asked a question to Democrats. How many people regret their vote for Joe Biden, right? Or even independents.
Buyer's remorse right now.
Nobody's asked the general electorate. Forget about by party. Nobody's asked the general electorate how many people regret your vote for Joe Biden. By now, we probably had 2 or 3 of those for Donald Trump. By the way, now would be a great time to poll Joe Biden's approval rating. BigDataPoll.com/public polling project. BigDataPoll.com/public polling project. Now would be a great time to get that number. All right. And update the vaccine. I'm curious to know about vaccine hesitancy still. Is that number still 25%? I bet you it is.
I bet you. And then,
but I'm
did
very
you notice
curious.
The commercials are so geared to the black culture? Like, they are like...
I know. I thought it was white NASCAR. I thought it was white NASCAR. Right. Listen, they are so full of crap. That's how you could tell they're full of crap. And Jen Psaki wants to publicly blame the NASCAR watching, deadliest catch watching, white hillbilly conservative, right? Because that's what they view as an anti-vaxxer. By the way, Webster's dictionary, Merriam-Webster, actually changed the definition of anti-vaxxer.
Oh, are you serious?
I am not
I missed that one.
Kidding. It is now no longer a fringe position. It's like it includes people who don't want to take the COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay.
This is crazy. There is a crisis of absolute truth in this country. Serious crisis of absolute truth. But anyway, yeah, now would be a great time to get Biden's approval rating. And no, Republicans are not moving on from Trump. They've moved on from you, and your friends, Byron. And I'm not doing this to pick on you. I'm simply saying you have learned nothing. You have learned nothing from 4 years of making fools of yourselves. You have learned nothing. And I don't even know why you do this anymore. You wrote a great book too. I bought it. It was a great book. I'm not going to pitch it here and hawk it for you. But you've learned nothing. You wrote a book about political persecutions. What do you think that does to public sentiment? What do you think the impact of that has on people's willingness or even ability to tell strangers the truth about their political beliefs? Especially strangers they deeply distrust. But if you call Bill Kristol I'm sure you got him in your phone still. You call Bill Kristol up, you poll him, no problem. He'll tell you what he thinks. The Jonah Goldbergs, no problem. And they'll call themselves Republicans, even though they're not. They're not. Meanwhile, you have Robert at Trafalgar. He puts out a poll, the Republican primary. It's Trump's going away. Ron is number 2, but he's a distant number 2. However, I like this, and I want to do this too. Sorry, Robert, I'm about to take this. Well, we were going to do it anyway. It's not really. We were going to ask the same thing. If Trump is not running, then who's your choice? And then it's Ron's handily.
Well, you answered that question.
Now, we have a very long time between now and the Republican primary. But barring something pretty big and something radical changes, at this point, the Republican Party is making it really clear. It's either Trump or Ron. By the way, there's not even enough in the Trafalgar poll. There's not even enough non-Trump support to justify the NBC News poll. You understand what I'm saying? There aren't enough people who said they wouldn't vote for Trump in the primary to justify the number of people who told NBC, their poll, that they now view themselves more as Republicans than Trumplicans. And they're going to point to, well, we asked this question before, a couple months ago. Yeah, did you ask it before the social bias kicked in with, the calling them insurrectionists, holding his supporters in solitary confinement for months? You think that doesn't have an impact on the psyche of people? Then you don't understand people. You don't understand people. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. When we come back, we'll buzz on about a couple other things. Then we'll bring on Don Smith, who will tell you about what he's got going on with his show, something new. And we'll talk and discuss and answer questions. It'll be a great time. I haven't spoke to Don because he was in Wisconsin having a wonderful family event, which made me think about the day my daughter gets married.
Me cry. Seeing that picture made me cry.
I can't even fathom it right now because she's 9. I'm thinking nobody's good enough for her, and I don't know how I'm ever going to put that away. As a father, I know. Well, that's why it's good to have Don as a friend, and others that I can, talk to about this. I grossly underestimated the power of the daddy-daughter relationship. Grossly. She's my pumpkin umpkin, and my little pumpkin umpkin and princess. And nobody is good enough for her. It's simple as that. I struggle to think about even some friends that I had when I was a kid, growing up, and they were good kids, some of them. I still wouldn't approve of them. There's no way I'm going to have an easy time with this. And I think there's just going to be a lot of freshly uncovered soil in the backyard that I'm going to have to hide from the police. Because
if someone
I don't know how I'm going to deal with this.
Actually divine. Like
Divinity. There we go. Be good for her. Divinity is good enough for my daughter, but that's about it. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.
Within 30 seconds.
Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit.
place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit.
That was Laura giving me a time check. She was singing with headphones on.
Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And we're back inside the numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Baris, the People's Pundit. You can follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like the videos, and hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. If you do like it, hit the thumbs up button, all right? But definitely, if you want to be a part of our community, the best way to do that is to sign up at peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. I'm going to go ahead and declare the Zoom meeting pilot a success from yesterday, and we will continue to do that. Hat tip to someone at Locals, I can't remember again, who gave me this idea. And she did. And it was a good time.
Julie?
I think, no.
Are you talking about
No. I'm talking about the creator, one of the content creators on Locals. She does Zoom meetings, and
dang it!
Yeah,
I see her. She has glasses.
Yeah. She
She's
knits.
Really cute.
She knits. She was people probably know her actually. She's was a liberal. Who decided after hearing all of this horrible stuff about Trump and his supporters that she was going to go to a Trump event. All right, this is how she got on the mark here. And wound up writing a Medium article, I believe, about what she saw at the Trump event, which any of us who have covered Trump will tell you is nothing at all what the mainstream propagandists, not mainstream, what the propagandist corporate media in America told you about a Trump rally. People are very nice. It's very diverse. It is not what you would expect. Do you have what you would typically think to be a Trump supporter? Yes. But you have a much browner, blacker, right? Mm-hmm. More female, even in some respects, Republican coalition than you ever saw under Mitt Romney or John McCain or any of them. That's just true. And here we go. All right. So anyway, she exploded and went viral because of that. And she said, this is just not what the media says. It's not true. And it wasn't, which was what struck me the first time I went to cover a Trump rally, which I remember dating back to when he was running for president the first time. I said, I got to go see this myself. I could just come, you see how many the crowd this guy's drawing. And me as a political guy, a psophologist, I'm like, crowds don't matter. Crowds don't matter. Typically, crowds don't matter. Walter Mondale had big crowds too. What's his name? Who got crushed against Richard Nixon? He had crowds. He could draw crowds, and he got killed. So typically, crowds did not matter. And I think, though, however, in the modern era, that may not be true anymore. And I think they may very well be an indicator because we're different now. We're just totally different. All right. I'm getting just blown up with these telemarketers, man. Totally blown up. I mean, now I know how you guys feel when I call you. Only it doesn't come up as telemarketer with me. It comes up as an actual number, the business numbers that we have for the phones, yeah, it's still though. This is not. These are like spam and telemarketing, and it's annoying. All right. With that in mind, we're going to have Don on in about 5 minutes leading into it. All right. You do that, and it's like, honestly, distracting.
What did I do?
like
Laura sorry.
Laura fending off trolls and stuff or something.
It was funny actually. It was me picking on you. Quite honestly, for
Is that what it was?
The mic on. Yes.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah, so everybody heard me talking about lunch.
I'm like, well, I said time check. That was the first thing, and then Laura said, and when this is probably I said time, and it made you think about lunch. Yeah.
And then on top of it, I was kind of singing along, so I hope they didn't hear that part because it was pretty low.
Laura does not like to sing. And yes, that was the singer of the theme song in the Zoom chat yesterday. I guess he was probably at work and couldn't stay. Was probably doing what he was doing and couldn't stay. But that's a shame because I'll tell you what, they would have loved to talk to him. Where is my Nicorette? Oh,
right
lordy,
in front of your
load it.
microphone.
Oh, load it. And I'm waiting for Don. This way I don't do the thing you all hate that I do when I'm on camera. All right, so, it's informal. This is an informal thing, I'm not like here like hosting a show on Newsmax or something, I wouldn't chew gum if I was. But Fridays are relatively informal. Otherwise, I try to run, actually, rather tight ship. All right, so... Listen, let's see.
I can ask some questions while.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say. I know that we don't get to everybody on a Friday after we bring Don on, so because Don and I go back and forth. So yeah. Hit it. Give me a question before I bring on Don.
Patel would like to know. Here goes a question to go nuclear on Fauci. Now says kids younger than 12 need to wear a mask in public still. Until they are vaxxed. Take it from here, Rich.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci can kiss my red-blooded American you-know-what. I'm not putting a mask on my kid, and I'm not getting them vaccinated. And that's just the end of that story. I'm not anti-vaccination, which is what I meant to say before when I lost my train of thought. Mm-hmm. Look, my father, older gentleman, has some pre-existing conditions. He made the decision he wanted to get the Pfizer vaccine. I didn't, go nuts on him. Dad, what are you doing? Don't get the vaccine. It's his decision. He's a grown ass man. He's older and he has his he's got his own personal decision to make. That being said, he is in that population. My children are not in that population. And I don't care what the midget Napoleon complex thinks or doesn't think. I don't care. I don't care how many degrees he has. A liar is a liar is a liar. Mm-hmm. A crook is a crook is a crook. I don't care how many degrees they have on their walls. I don't care how many years they've been sucking off the government. The guy's never been. Can we honestly say this for a sec? This is not like a practicing physician. This is a bureaucracy doctor, and always has been. He's a bureaucrat. Isn't it so? Because people are like, who are you going to believe? Dr. Fauci, who is this and, that title, or Rand Paul, who was just a stupid little, basically general practitioner, which he wasn't, which is ridiculous with that criticism. Mm-hmm. But at least he was a practicing physician, right?
Yep.
At least he was a practicing physician. So I'm not going to listen to a bureaucrat who has been wrong about everything and has, by the way, not the rosy history that the media portrays him to have. His record on AIDS is not what you read about, which they largely ignored for a long time while people were dying. And it wasn't Dr. Fauci who spearheaded the movement to bring it into the mainstream. That's a crock of crap. Anyway.
Well, so to comment on...
I'm not doing it. Science is... No. You want science?
Our locals person said, I wonder if they're going to if he's going to make them the open casket with the mask on the body.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he mandated that.
Right. No kidding.
Because that's the same effect.
No kidding.
Everything else.
I wouldn't be surprised anymore either. Got to put a mask on the body during the wake. I mean, this is, he may exhale a gas with a viral particle on it. Nothing is too stupid for these people at this point. Do not put anything anything past them. And the science is science, right? We're supposed to listen to the science. Mm-hmm. The science says that children don't carry a high enough viral load. That's it. End of story. And I'm not anti-vax because there are, of course, legitimate vaccination requirements for children to attend public school. These are diseases that we have fully understood for a long time. These are vaccinations that we have fully studied for a long time. COVID is not polio. All right, moving on here. Let's bring in Don. All right. Let's bring in my good friend Don, host of the Don Smith Show. Give me a hot second here, actually. But yeah, I mean, I'm simply not going to do that. And there is a legitimate question about whether or not parents should have. Parents should have. I don't want to say more say. It's not more say, but because there's things as parents we do have to listen to when it comes to the public, right? Public health. Mm-hmm. There are things that we do take a back seat when it comes to that, but it's not the way. No,
thank you.
It's not the way it has been in the past. Mm-hmm. Is where I'm going. All right, let me bring in my good friend Don Smith. Don, it's been a week, my friend. A week. We took one episode, and the whole damn thing went to pot.
Sorry about that. Well, yeah, I had a little thing with my daughter getting married, so we headed up to Wisconsin and had a great time. So it's great to see everybody again.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you back, Don. As always, do us a little favor here, real quick. Recap of what you did on. I did mention it on Thursday. I don't know how many people had a chance to watch and missed it, and how many people missed it or did watch. So give for those who missed it and didn't see. What did you do on Thursday? What did we miss?
So last night I hooked up with my good friend Mr. Dave Perkins. He's a legend in the radio industry. He's been a long time talk show host. He finished his career at The Blaze, so he was one of the news anchors there. So started a new show called The Conversation, and that was last night at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Great. It was great to get together with him. This guy's he's an encyclopedia and just so smart, and just really an honor to work with him. So you love Dave, and we had a blast last night. So for the last hour of the program, we had Victoria Jackson on the program. So we did a recap of her career, including times on Johnny Carson, some skits from Saturday Night Live, and yeah, it was a great conversation, and just three friends getting together and talking. So it was great, but woke up this morning and found out that they had blocked the video. So I've got to kind of redo some things, and copyright stuff from the Johnny Carson thing and from the Saturday Night Live thing. Wow. And
you're talking crazy. About with Victoria, though. So you're showing clips of your guest.
Yes.
This is so arbitrary, Don. It's not even funny.
Yep, it certainly is. So, yeah, think about that. So it's a video from the first one, Johnny Carson, was from 1983. It's with Victoria. And all I played was Johnny Carson introducing her and then her coming out and thanking the audience for clapping. And then we just, take us back to that time kind of thing. But, yeah, it's crazy that you have the person who it was actually about on, and she owns no rights to anything. So it is what it is, and I've been getting pinged a little bit here lately with that stuff. So yeah, I think it is arbitrary, and I think they're really looking a little closer at what we're doing. So we had a good audience for the live, but right now there's no archives. So as soon as I'm done with you, I'm going to go on and take some of that stuff out and and redo it and upload it so people will be able to see it. But it was a great conversation. We had a great time. And I'm really looking forward to doing more of these with Dave. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, if you have the MP4 file, if it was me anyway, I don't mean do what you do, but if I would put it right on locals for people anyway. I would, just because that's separate from YouTube. Even when we give credit, which is there are, and you know this, there are industry standards, 40-second clips or less, whatever, 20-second clips, whatever it may be. Put a little credit, hat tip, in the corner. That's typically good enough. If it's there, time can have an impact. So how long is it running, right? And is there additional content to it, commentary that you're using it for? And that's just not subject to that. But it's very arbitrary who they hit with this stuff and who they don't, Don, because I see left wing, whatever it may be, whether it's the propagandist media themselves or it's left wing podcasts or stuff like that. I see them run stuff all the time. They don't have permission for it, and not only are they not blocked, but they're fully monetized. And that's what happens when, Robert and I on What Are the Odds will run a clip about Joe Biden or something and then go to talk about it. They'll demonetize it because there was a clip in there or something, just one little clip. It's ridiculous. We don't even use that.
Last week's show, so I had pre-taped a little thing because we were going to be gone, and so I've been using "Fight the Good Fight" Triumph song for 10 years on my program, and they finally last week they hit me on that one. So, and it said any monetization off the video will go directly to what AMG Music Group or whatever it is. I've got my own music. I recorded an album here a number of years ago, and so I'm just using my own music. We got hit last night on the program too, and it was supposed to be copyright-free music. Told us you're free to use this, and we credited, and even with that, we got hit with that too. So any monetization would have went to them, but NBC Universal actually blocked the video, so they
they're really bad.
Yep.
They're really bad. Yep. NBC, we showed the clip of Kamala Harris egging on the protesters during the burning of Minnesota when she went on Stephen Colbert, and they hit us, right? And even Fox has before. When I've showed clips of something stupid, their anchor will say, and then Fox will say, that's copyright. Like, what? Within 30 seconds. I'm not even talking about huge clips here. So, we kind of have, not that we even care, because I'm not, when it comes to the ads that are rolling on the video, I don't really, consider that a major source of revenue. It's just not. But, the theme song, that was all from, we got permission for that, and that's just the way it has to be. So let me ask you, you're in Florida now. You're back in Florida, right?
Yes.
And I have heard now that some of this is starting to impact Florida with the pipeline. Do you see it at all yet? I mean, it's fully impact us over here. How is it by you?
So for us, I'm in Jacksonville, and we actually don't get anything from that pipeline. So for us, the only impact there has been is kind of like when the pandemic first started and everybody ran out and bought toilet paper, or every time there's a hurricane, this in Florida, everybody goes and buys everything, water and whatever. So the only thing that we've had was really kind of like the panic buying thing, because everybody hearing this story, but none of our actual but none of our actual stuff comes from that pipeline. It comes from other sources. So for us, there hasn't been a shortage. As far as other parts of Florida, I'm not so sure about, but for us, no, it hasn't been really impacted us that much. But how interesting is it that just something like this that happened, a week ago today, look how quickly this whole thing just turned into this nightmare. It shows, I wonder about all the people, the green people who say we shouldn't use fossil fuels and all that stuff. I wonder how they feel about all this stuff, because this is what's going to happen, I predict, in the future when the government starts to crack down, just like they're doing with the vaccines now, where they're using the carrot and the stick and all that. They're going to do the same thing with fossil fuels, because they can't live up to the promises they've made. So anybody who's wondering what that would be like, they need to really take a look at what's going on right now. A couple of years ago, there was the big blackout in New York City, when they all went without power. Those are things that people should look at when they want to talk about how we're just gonna. Joe Biden, when he was running for president, made the comment that, we're going to cut it back by 50%, but don't worry, it'll be replaced with something. What? I mean, look what's going on now. What are you going to replace it with? So if you've got something, then okay, then maybe have the conversation and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have something. So I think this should be a wake-up call for some of those people. Will it be? Probably not.
Yeah, that's a great point, because for Texas to the eastern seaboard up into Virginia, they're not being saved by this mysterious secret alternative that they've been talking about for years, right? Yep. So Charlotte, Biden voters, they're almost totally out of gas now. So this is even smaller towns, obviously You would think, well, smaller town, less demand, but that's actually not true. They don't get supplied as much, so resupplied as much. I did hear it had some impact in the Panhandle in Florida, but there are ways to kind of like redirect other resources to them because Florida is essentially autonomous. It's also a good time to talk about, Don, how Joe Biden has reversed our energy independence that Donald Trump created for the first time since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. All right, and it would behoove us to have a lot more than just one pipeline that we have to work. And I know it's a massive infrastructure. I get it, but I'm simply saying that, if we were pumping and cranking out reserves, if we were right, I mean, this doesn't have to be like this. And when asked whether or not considering the pipeline, is drying up the eastern seaboard, has this caused the Biden administration to rethink their policies on canceling not only pipelines that were requesting permits, the go ahead, State Department review and the go ahead, but current pipelines, current projects, like the Keystone? And their answer, Don, was no. Could you believe this ideology over policy?
Like I said, this should be a wake-up call to these people, but it won't be. It won't be because they're so entrenched in this thought process. Let's understand something right now. Joe Biden is never going to not have gas. Kamala Harris is never going to not have gas.
That's right.
Those people are always going to have access to anything they want, whether they cut back the meat supply or whatever, they're always going to have it. And this is really that, let them eat cake kind of thing. But go back to Jimmy Carter, because this is where the whole thing started, where every president since talked about achieving energy independence. And for me, I always thought, it's impossible. If nobody could have done it by now, then, just kind of like moving the embassy in Israel. Everybody talked about that. And who comes in and does it? President Trump. So it wasn't impossible. It could be done, and it was done. And now they're reversing it. So apparently that wasn't really the ultimate goal here, was to be energy independent, because look at us now. So yeah, people need to understand, look at what happened with this thing. Number one, it shows how vulnerable we are to not only the cyber attacks, but other things. But it also shows how a society can crumble pretty quickly. We've seen, I'm sure you've seen the videos of people fighting over the gas.
We had it here, sadly. Yeah. We did. They were ramming each other. The girl at the gas station we frequent too, really. She was happy the gas was dry because she said it was dangerous for her, and not just her, others. It was at the point where it was dangerous, Don. I mean, like Dodge City out over here, she said, and I actually should share this with you. You ever see a Harris Teeter in North Carolina? It's a grocery store, but they have gas stations, and they're typically big. You get points through buying groceries, so everybody wants to gas up. If you shop at Harris Teeter, they want to gas up, so you can pay, this much less on the dollar or whatever it is. By the way, with our points, and I don't have a small car, we would take, I don't know, a third to fill up gas of what it, under Trump, I mean, now compared to what it is. It's literally 3 times the cost to fill our tank, even with the point bonus. But in any event, and it's weird because of how the points work, so it's not like gas is, but in any event, I go there the other day, and I tweeted the line, and that was when I was like halfway there. And me, public opinion guy, I decided to get out of the car and walk around. And I just want to talk to people, and I'm like, hey guys, humor me for a second. What do you think about this gas thing? We are in a red area, but we're in an affluent red area. And where that Harris Teeter is actually even more affluent than where I live. Where I don't know if affluent's the word. They're ritzy, right? And basically, these people weren't buying this at all, number one. And I went up to this woman who was like dressed in a nines. She was driving a Mercedes, right? A white Mercedes. And I'm like, man, what do you think? I'm just asking people, what do you think? And I said, what do you think happened here? And what do you think the government's going to do about it, right? And she was like, I don't know. What do I know? She's like, yeah, sure. Russia hacked the pipeline. Just like Russia and Donald Trump colluded, 4 years ago. She's like, what do I know? I mean, she was mocking it, though. Like, in other words, nothing that she's right.
Yeah.
Nothing that comes
Nobody
out of their
believes.
mouth you can believe at all, because, or at least not with some kind of verifiable proof, right?
Yeah, you
so
gotta be suspicious of
so
everything.
she, and then the person she had in the passenger seat, another woman, she's like, I think they want this to happen. I think they're dying for this to happen, and then this is their way, to basically say, see, it can't be privately owned, right? So I found it funny but everybody, I didn't find a single person who didn't blame or feel like this would not have happened if Donald Trump was president. Like, so the idea, and we talked about this earlier this week on the show, it's like one of the biggest cons of the 2020 election was that somehow any foreign actor, nation state, non-nation state actor, anybody was going to be more afraid of Joe Biden than Donald Trump. A man, Don, who played ball with every corrupt world leader who's been around for 4 decades. A man who played ball with every corrupt special interest group on K Street. So they're going to be more afraid of this guy than Donald Trump. And I think, honestly, at this point, Trump had especially with what they had done to him, he would have had no choice but to retaliate brutally. And this is something that bothers me. You and I have talked about infrastructure a lot. Everybody on Twitter, the blue checks, and in the media, on TV, everyone likes to talk about infrastructure, but they don't really seem to know anything about it, Don. If you want to be a privately controlled infrastructure because you're a capitalist country, if everything is publicly owned, then you're not a capitalist country. I mean, so this is one thing that they don't seem to understand. And that why, Democrat proposals about infrastructure are really just about picking winners and losers. They're not about infrastructure. It's not how our system is worked. But that doesn't mean that government doesn't have a role in defending that infrastructure, even though it's private sector. Otherwise, we could be crippled in a day, Don. Like you said, look at how quickly a society can just crumble. All right. I mean, this is something, it should tell everybody, give everybody a warning. If Joe Biden does nothing about this, if there's no punishment for this, if they truly believe it was Russia, right, or a Russian actor, then we're going to set a precedent that's going to be horrible. Don't pay the ransom. You shouldn't pay the ransom. You should cripple somebody. Vladimir Putin, if Russia really did this, and it's some kind of actor, maybe not a government, some hacking group that they have. If you hurt Vladimir Putin, he will hurt them. And he will make it stop. I don't think people understand the control this man has. He lets a handful of oligarchs do what they want, and then everybody else answers to Vlad. And that's it. So if it's true, then where's the action here, Don? You don't think our NSA could go hurt them real bad right now? Cyber hurt. Absolutely.
Easy.
Why is he doing nothing?
I think two
Freaking
things.
chump.
First of all, let me just kind of point out the obvious here. Does anybody think this happens under President Trump? Does anybody think Vladimir Putin's sanctions? Because let's face it, just like you said, he has a lot of power. He controls everything. He's a dictator. So does anybody think that gets by him and he goes, oh yeah, go ahead and do that with President Trump? I would say no. Anybody think there's rockets flying from Hamas with President Trump? I don't. Anybody think that Iran isn't acting aggressively as aggressive as they are today under President Trump? No. Proof being 4 years. We have 4 years to prove that. So I think that's the real thing here is just like you said, they don't have any, it's not even about fearing the president of the United States. It's about having respect and being cautious because you know that he might come back and do something to you. If you're China now, China's already told us we're not coming from a place of strength anymore. They didn't say that to President Trump. They never said that once to President Trump or about this country. So yeah, did they want Joe Biden? Of course they did. There was a lot of things, I'm sure a lot of pent up anger with some of these countries or terrorist organizations when we talk about Hamas and Israel, but they didn't act because they had a respect for President Trump, just like they did for Ronald Reagan. That's why the wall came down, because they were like, boy, this guy's not kidding. I mean, this guy's a serious guy. So yeah, he's not playing around. But I think, when it comes to the infrastructure thing, none of this, when they talk infrastructure, they're not talking infrastructure. They don't even know what the word means. They really don't. They really don't
understand.
No, they're using terms now like human infrastructure. Huh? I've never driven across a human infrastructure to get across a river. I don't know about you, but I don't even know what that means. It's like terms like living wage. What does that mean? That means if I make a penny less an hour, I'm going to die. What do those terms mean? But when they talk infrastructure, they don't care about infrastructure. It's about lining pockets. It's about taking care of friends. Who could forget the shovel-ready jobs?
Yeah,
and when the guy
not so shovel-ready after all.
Our first nearly $1 trillion spending bill was not. It was a fund, nothing to do with infrastructure. Remember, they kept showing us all these bridges. Oh, this bridge has been in disrepair for 25 years, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? It's still in disrepair. He even came out and said, Barack Obama came out and said, oh, I guess there were no shovel-ready jobs. And everybody laughed. We spent $1 trillion, but it's really funny. But one more thing on that. Who was the guy who was going to, because remember, they were the most transparent administration in history, which they weren't. They were the most secretive. Cheryl Atkinson asked her about that. But what they did was put Joe Biden in charge of the website. Remember the website? You were going to be able to track every single dollar that was spent and where it went and the progress on that thing. Not only did they not share all that information, there's no website. They didn't even build a website to make it look good. So, and that's the guy that's now president of the United States. So that's how serious they are about infrastructure.
You're talking about the Middle East. This is 8 months ago. This was 8 months ago. 8 months ago. And now here we are. And I think, they got the American people were grossly robbed by the Presidential Debate Commission of that second debate, which is the traditional foreign policy debate. And the reason why, let's cut the crap, nothing to do with COVID, scheduling things. They know, like every other political forecaster knows, they are known documented Trump haters. You put the president on stage with foreign policy, and that is where the president shines. He becomes the incumbent president, and it becomes a question to the American people of whether or not they want to take the risk on somebody else when you have a guy who is doing a good job, right? So it was going to be Donald Trump, the first president never to start a new conflict in modern history, versus a man who supported every major war failure and war for the last 40 years, every major conflict, military action for the last 40 years, and failed at it. It was Donald Trump who destroyed ISIS without conventional warfare versus the guy who created ISIS, making a mistake, right? Being what he is. And we talked about some of that history. He supported the Iraq War, but then he bailed on the troops when they needed him, right? So that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, he has no conviction or no real compass. He puts his finger in the air, Don, which way is the wind blowing. That's it. He's not smart. Even his own Secretary of Defense, Obama's own Secretary of Defense, said Joe Biden has made every major foreign policy mistake. He's been on the wrong side of every major foreign policy issue, and it's ever. So it was a major disservice to the American people, and not just the American people, clearly the people in the Middle East, because now they have to live with the consequences of this too, and
it's just two things. So you mentioned
tough
the
to
second.
quantify.
You mentioned the second debate that was supposed to happen here in this election. Of course, they're not going to do a foreign policy debate. You've got, just because exactly what you just said, Joe Biden's been on the wrong side of everything. I mean, not just most things, everything. So the problem they had with Donald Trump was there was no track record, right? Any thing he had with any other foreign country was business dealings, and they all went smoothly, and they had built the buildings, and they accomplished something, but they had no real foreign policy data for him. So it was a no-win situation for Joe Biden, because he would have just beat him up with every single thing like a big stick, bam.
The man who got Kim Jong-un to come to the table versus the man who saw South Korea shelled twice, and while he was running point for U.S.-China relations, which for people who don't know, you use China to rein in North Korea. That's what the Obama administration tried to do, and it didn't work. It did not work. And Trump did as well, but he just handled it a very different way, and then also believed there should be better, more direct lines of communication with North Korea, because that's what realists do. You don't just shut down and not talk to each other, and you're some kind of traitor if you suggest talking to each other. That's ridiculous. That leads to situations like the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is why they installed the red phone in the White House to talk to Moscow. I mean, this is so stupid. It's so ignorant, some of the things that we hear and have heard. That is why, right. I mean, it's just ignorant. That's why Richard Nixon went to China for détente against Russia. I mean, these are lessons long learned. I mean, learned a long time ago. And we're speaking, so I'm really, what I'm getting at is, I mean, I don't know how anybody could be surprised at where we're at now. I mean, if you were paying attention, if you weren't, you got duped, and I'm sorry for you. Grow personally, like I said the other day. Grow as an individual, admit it to yourself, and become better, be a better person, right? Get smarter. And then secondly, what I am surprised about is just how fast. I can't believe, I'll take Obama over this guy all day, Don.
Well, let me make one more point here, because there's all this conversation, as there should be, about misinformation, right? Misinformation. So we talk about the debate commission not having that foreign policy debate, which has always historically kind of been the big one, right? So they block you from it. So, misinformation isn't just putting out information that's wrong and misleading. It's about blocking people from information. There was no other way to determine the difference between the positions on foreign policy, because they didn't have that debate. So you've got that, but go back to 2012, Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, and Barack Obama won that debate. According to the media and according to most people, he won that debate. Why? Because of his famous line that the 80s called, and they want their foreign policy back.
That's right.
He was mocking Mitt Romney, who said that the biggest geopolitical threat that we had facing us now was Russia. So go 4 years ahead. So he mocks him, and everybody laughs. And of course, Candy Crawley with her just happened to have the transcript right here. But anyway, that's just stick to the Russia one. So he mocks him, and everybody mocks him. He becomes a laughing stock because he said that. 4 years later, what happens? They say that Russia interfered in our election, caused President Trump to win. That's why he
public enemy number one now.
Public enemy number one. We did $30 million plus in an investigation that lasted 3 years into Russia interfering in our election. 4 years earlier, these people mocked Mitt Romney for making that comment. So that's how quickly things can change. But it also shows the collusion of the media in all this, because they ran with each one of those things.
Yeah, they're propagandists. Molly Hemingway is right. It's not even, we shouldn't even really call them, anything but that. I mean, they are propagandist media. I mean, they're propagandists, corporate propagandist media. I don't know how else to say it. They're not. There's nothing legitimate about them anymore, Don. They fact-checked the other day. Somebody had watched a show Robert and I did on What Are the Odds about the census data. It has long been known that the exit polls are bunk, and that you wait to really, really decide to really look back as psephologists and study what happened in an election. You wait for the census data if you really want more reliable data, right? It's just done, the methodology is far, far superior. And typically, and that's well known and has been for years, typically the census will overestimate how many people voted than underestimate, because, as every pollster knows, when you call someone, they want you to think they did their civic duty. So they say they voted, even though they probably did. Many did not. And then they'll tell you, if you ask them who they voted for, they'll typically tell you they voted for the winner, right? And this is something pollsters know about all the time. I'm talking about not people who are not ideological, and people who tend to lie about about voting when they did not. And this is something we've known for years. Somebody else took what Robert and I were saying, like, where is these millions of votes? And in Wisconsin specifically, there are a lot for a small state like Wisconsin. The disparity is high. And it's Is it evidence, conclusive evidence of fraud? Nobody said that. What we were saying is it is yet another anomaly, another statistical anomaly that we're all supposed to swallow when, and move on. And they fact-checked us over this, and they talked to college professors. All right, this hack liberal nut at USA Today talks to college professors about the census data and whether it could be used as evidence for fraud, who didn't even know what they were talking about. Their answer was, those could be people. What is the difference? People who said, I prefer not to say. No, that's not true. Because, first of all, this isn't like this is the first freaking census ever done on an election, idiot. All right? And where in the history can you point me to where they grossly overshot or grossly undershot the vote count, and that there's enough in prefer not to say to make up for that 5 million? Because that's not what is typical. That's not what is not even typical, customary. It's more likely that you will reach someone who didn't vote and they tell you they did than it is that you will reach somebody who did and will tell you they didn't. This is not information, folks. This is so far from a fact check. It is not just total nonsense. The truth is that census is odd. It's questionable. The results of disparity, very, very odd. It is an anomaly in modern politics. Another anomaly, like you don't carry Ohio and Florida overwhelmingly and lose the election. That is an anomaly. You don't carry 18 out of 19 bellwethers and lose the election. That is an anomaly. Okay? I mean, they want you, they know it. They see it's a what's the word I'm looking for? A vulnerability in their narrative. And so they just start smearing you. Boom, jump right on you. And they, first of all, what the hell would a college professor know? What would a college professor, even McDonald at UF, how many times have I embarrassed my buddy at my alma mater? How many times have I publicly embarrassed him for his failed projections? I mean, you're going to listen to this guy from the election project? This is a total joke. If he was right, Hillary Clinton would be president. Republicans would never have taken over the Senate. I mean, on and on and on with these failures from this guy. And again, this year was another failure, even though Joe Biden won. So you have got to be kidding me. Guys never picked up a phone. None of them ever picked up a phone a day in their life and polled anybody. They have no idea how polling and household surveys work. No clue. Who the hell are they to be the authority? A joke. All right, let's take some questions.
Oh, you
Let's
sure?
take some locals questions.
Oh, wow.
Wise guy. She's such a
We're gonna
wise
have
guy.
questions? Oh, my goodness.
She's such a wise guy.
All right. Descendant writer wants to know, it looks like the Republicans will dominate 2022 election cycle. My fear is, what kind of Republican? Will we have a populist American First candidate, or will the establishment try to push uniparty rhinos on us who are cut out of the McCarthy, McConnell, Cheney mold? The pick of Stefanik, I can't say that.
Stefanik.
Thank
Elise
you.
Stefanik.
For a new leader seems to not bode well for the populace.
I mean, the bottom line is you're going to have to do it yourself. If you're conservative, populist, you're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to do it in the primaries. I think Don would agree, after all the years we've been doing this, they're going to push these candidates on you. That's going to happen. And your job is to make sure they are defeated in the primary. And I would say, as of now, early indicators, very early indicators, is that, Democrats are going to get crushed in 2022. They're going to get absolutely mauled. And that's why they need all of these election reform bills we spoke about on Wednesday, with Matt Brainerd's project has been tracking, because they need these anomalies. Okay, they need these anomalies. I think you'd agree, Don, right? I mean, that's the job of the grassroots, to make sure they lose. Look at Susan Wright, though, in Texas. They were even running ads against her. They were unspeakable lies against Susan Wright, and she still crushed them.
Yep. And that's a great question, and the reason it's a great question is because it's what it's all about. That's what this is all about this time, and they are going to look what's going on this week with Liz Cheney and her. We can't ever let this lying guy back. I mean, that's so establishment talk. It's also the launch of her presidential campaign. She's an egomaniac. It is what it is, but. Who are these candidates? Who are these candidates going to be? And that is the question. Anomaly is the word of the day. So let's go with the biggest anomaly in my lifetime, and that is candidate Trump. We got candidate Trump. We were going to be forced with. It was going to be Jeb Bush. Please clap. It was going to be Jeb Bush, especially after he put that exclamation mark next to his name, and it was going to be Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton. So we, at least on the right, were able to break out of that. And we were able to overcome that because we had a weak RNC at the time that wasn't able to stop us from nominating President Donald Trump, future President Donald Trump. So he was the anomaly unless, like Rich said, unless we take this thing forward, we take control of it ourselves, we get out here and we support the right candidates, we make sure we know who these candidates are. There's a lot of candidates that get elected just because they got the R, or on the other side, they have the D. But you got to know who they are. Are they Liz Cheney? Are they Kevin McCarthy? Or are they Donald Trump? Or are they something like that? So here you've already got Liz Cheney on our side, who's putting the stake in the ground that you better get over Trump. You better not be supportive of Trump. You better not. But then you've got Donald Trump, who's sitting back there, and he's going to be kingmaker in this thing one way or another. He's going to be kingmaker or kingbreaker, I guess, however it plays out. But we had John McCain, then we had Mitt Romney. We were supposed to have Jeb Bush. So that really, it didn't just bring the left to their knees, which started the Orange Man bad and the Trump derangement syndrome. We had it on the right. We had the never Trumpers. We had the people go, my God, we can never let these people have control of this again. Think about that for a minute, because I think that's the really important question. When your party is against you, the establishment of your party is against you getting to make that choice, that's a problem. The left still has that problem. Joe Biden, come on. I mean, he was the guy, right? He was the selected one, just like Hillary Clinton was before. And Bernie tried to break through, almost did, but they couldn't. So they're not quite at that level yet. We proved we can do it. So let's do it again in 2020.
Bernie was the first to be robbed. And yeah, Don, that was I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's very, very important for it to be this year. So they're trying to regain control of a party that, like Don said, they lost control of. And it has to be this year. The Stefanik thing, Trump supported her. I imagine that's probably out of loyalty for the impeachment. She isn't totally 100% on, Trump, the MAGA agenda. But she does represent, like I've said before, you have to have a big tent if you want to keep some of these seats. And so I understand that. I don't think at all the leadership represents the party, but I understand the choice of Stefanik, and Trump did support her. So if I wouldn't have picked her, but if it goes awry, just remember Trump did support, all right? So it's up to you, like Don said. It is up to you. It's not up to, anybody else. You got to make it happen. And with that, Don, I was going to say Bernie, Laura and I were going over some old stuff the other day. Bernie was the first to be robbed.
Oh yes,
he did not win. He did not lose the state of Iowa. Pete Buttigieg did not win the Iowa caucus. There are all sorts of strange discrepancies with the state delegate equivalents, and he got beat. And then in New Hampshire, he was the first one to be. South Carolina's a little bit different. Whatever happened after that, they rallied against him. And the establishment went against their voters, and their voters didn't want Joe Biden, but they believed, because their voters are still, and I don't mean this to be insulting, their voters are still highly, highly impressionable, okay? They're naive when it comes to authority, and they believe what the party tells them. They believe what the media tells them. The media and the party convinced them that Bernie Sanders could not beat Donald Trump. I'm telling you, I think Bernie would have given Trump some problems in states that Trump won, and maybe vice versa. It would have been a different race. But they got duped, and they were duped into picking Joe Biden by the people that they trust, the most, which it's not an earned trust. It's just that these are people who they profile very differently, Don. I don't know how else to say it. They're gullible. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. This is a very gullible group of people. Liberals are gullible. I'm sorry. It's just true. I don't mean that to be insulting.
For the most part.
For the most part, not all. Right. Not all. But generally speaking, and I'm a statistician, I speak in generalities. They are gullible people. All right, when it comes to authority. Right?
And conditioned.
Yeah. Like there are still people who believe the Russia collusion lie because they cannot fathom that CNN would lie to them. I mean, it's just very, very immature gullibility that is on another level. But let's rock out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to say another question.
Oh, so tired, Laura.
He loves me. Sorry, our
I know they keep you entertained, don't they?
They make me laugh. Wait till I show you this picture.
The one thing I miss about the better streaming software is that I don't get to see as much of the comment and interactions.
I get to save them.
And then Laura always shares them with me, but I used to be able to see it in the corner of my eye. And I can't see it anymore. Maybe I'll put up another screen and just let it roll through as in a different screen or something.
Oh, I can put it on my tablet for you.
Yeah, you can put it on a tablet on a stand right there. Because that'd be neat.
And the computer. Okay, Owen would like to know, any chance you or Rich might put out a book you're covering? If it were something like a Federalist or Anti-Federalist paper, it would be cool to be able to read it beforehand so we could have a good discussion about it.
So whether we'll write one?
Any chance you or Rich might put out the book you're covering?
Oh.
Like a Federalist kind of, or Anti-Federalist paper. Like, if we're covering something, to have them know what we're reading and what we're going to discuss, so we could have that conversation.
Yeah.
A good question.
Yeah. Some things, I mean, I thought about this for the Zoom meeting and stuff. I did. I thought about this for the... She just put out she just showed me an image of somebody memed me with red eyes. It says I got the data. And I'm like Darth Vader. That's funny.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. I guess we could do something like that. I thought he was asking about writing something. I mean, Don, I've been trying to write this thing for a while now. It's so much work to write.
I'm overhearing it.
It is so much to write, and it's going rather slowly, but that's all right, because if we get to the deadline where I'm like, you know what, if it's going to be relevant, I got to speed it up, then I will. I'd rather it be more relevant to the presidential election than a midterm election, frankly. I would, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I want to wait that long, because the party battle is the story, and if I'm going to talk about what I saw with the numbers, the evolving political coalitions, then the midterm may be the story, because that may tell us whether or not, look at Texas. What'd you make of those results in Texas, by the way, Don? I didn't ask you about that.
Which ones are you talking about?
In the congressional. Well, I mean, I know we had lower level races, but the congressional stuff.
I mean, I think it a little bit goes back to what we were just talking about, where it's up to the voters and the power in that the RNC can't shut them down, the establishment can't shut them out. So I think what it showed was, I don't think people want to go back to, at least on the right, they don't want to go back to the establishment thing. And I think the move against Cheney, kind of an example of that as well, because Kevin McCarthy didn't want to do that, but he kind of had to do that. So I think here's the irony of all of this.
She won the secret ballot on Saturday, the fake little secret ballot. People should know that. She only got ousted because it was out loud and publicly. That's what you're dealing with the Republican Party, folks, if you're a Republican. That's how two-faced these pieces of garbage are. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted people to know what happened on Saturday.
Nothing infuriates establishment-type people than losing power and going, hey, we told you to, and then you don't do it. So I think one of the real ironies of this upcoming election is when President Trump won that nomination, it was a decimated RNC. The money, the staff, the infrastructure of the RNC itself was gone. We talked to Sean Spicer about that. And it was President Trump that revived it and made it a viable power again, if you will, because
right.
he brought a lot of money into there. They were broke. They had no really Jeb Bush. How much money was he going to bring in for the RNC? Probably not a lot, not anywhere near as much as President Trump did. So President Trump rebuilt the RNC, and now it's going to be used. I hate to say it, but it's going to be used to push the establishment stuff. They're going to try to get back to business as usual, if you will. And I think what happened in Texas proves that might not work for them. So I think it's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm looking at those results in the Dallas suburbs that just jumped right out at me. You know, that this was an area that we were told was going to, from this point on to an undetermined amount of time that is going to be long, is going to swing to Democrats, and their support there was abysmal. And they swung very hard. And I tried explaining this to people. It is, especially with the media, it was a social desirability bias campaign targeting women in the suburbs. And even with all of that, you would have expected those burbs to swing harder away from Republicans and Donald Trump. But they didn't. And, you know, a place like Kenosha, Wisconsin, you know, you would have thought would have swung hard away from Donald Trump, but it didn't. Even with its roots, that is the kind of burb they were talking about, right? The Dallas suburbs. Even Donald Trump did better than David Perdue in the metro Atlanta suburbs. I mean, when he lost to Ossoff. So to me, I was always telling people that is the swingy area, and that it looks different than it did 4 years ago, 8 years ago, damn sure 12 years ago. It's a lot less white. It's much more, I hate to use the word educated, but definitely more professional class and graduate, level, which is Democratic leaning constituency. But that doesn't mean that if Democrats don't turn too hard to the left, it will not swing back against them. And lo and behold, I mean, it goes to show, really does go to show. And that is with 4 years of, if you're a Bourbonite, you should be like this. Otherwise, you're a racist. Otherwise, you're stupid. Otherwise, you're that, right? Otherwise, you're a traitor. Traitor. It ranged from racist to stupid to traitor. I mean, everything in between. So with all of that, they still couldn't do better this time in a place they think they're going to flip in 4 years. I mean, you can't flip it if you perform that crappy in the suburbs of Dallas, because it was the working Hispanic that gave Donald Trump such a strong victory in Texas. It wasn't the white Anglo in the Dallas suburbs. And if the white Anglo, that's what they call them, if they're going to swing back like that, then forget about Texas. Forget about for Democrats. Forget about it. The numbers are just not there, Don.
Yep. Agreed.
You want to get another one in here?
My turn.
Let's get another one.
Let's see. Ask that one. Neil would like to know, on the premise, which I believe, if Biden is just a frontman/puppet, wouldn't it be more important that the opposition go after and expose the puppet masters more aggressively? What
do you think, Don?
I think they're kind of exposing themselves, but yeah, I think definitely go after them. I mean, yeah, you have to help those that don't see it, but I think they're really exposing themselves, and I think you can just see when Joe Biden comes out. First of all, he ran saying he was the centrist, right? He was the guy, he was the moderate, sure, and he wasn't even going to listen to these guys. Well, yeah, okay, action after action after action. Every single thing he's done so far is not centrist. It's not moderate, and he is not ignoring those people. So I think it's really been exposed because the left, the media especially, and the politicians as well on the left, they mocked us for saying that, for even suggesting that.
And
oh
Trump,
my goodness, and Trump, yeah. Oh, listen to these guys. We're a bunch of tinfoil hat people, and Joe Biden's been around and he's got a track record and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, here we are. So congratulations for everybody who jumped on board the mock train. Yeah, you won. Yay. No, you lost. So I think he's doing a great job.
We're all losing.
We're all losing. I think he's done a great job on his own. His administration continues to do a great job of exposing themselves for exactly what's going on. So great question. And yeah, I think that is important.
Dave Rubin tweeted before, I think the blue checks owe us an apology because, I mean, it's such a catastrophe. it's
don't hold
it's
your
such
breath.
a catastrophe. Yeah, right. Don't hold your breath. And I think that that is, maybe a nice little. I like that question. From a messaging point of view, you could just like find a term, something like Biden's handlers. Basically that insinuates both that Joe Biden is not competent, and two, that his handlers are something's devious about them or incompetent even. But that's why. The inconsistency and incoherence of policy out of this White House is evidence that it is a handler situation, because you have the radical ideologues versus the corporatist crooks, and they're all crooks, but you know what I mean, corporatist crooks fighting for control over policy. There are always factions in the White House that fight for control, but they're usually fighting for the president's ear, Don. And the president maintains a consistent policy in some, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Obama or it's at least consistent, because there's still the guy who's calling the final shot. That's how it's not Biden at the top here, right, really being a leader, calling the shots, because one day it's one thing, the next day it's another thing, the next day it's another. And I don't think Kamala Harris has the tools. I don't think she has the qualifications to be a president. So that's why, even if she was trying to fill that role, she's not. She was, guys, her campaign was a catastrophe. I mean, if you really want to look at how good somebody can manage something, all right, her campaign was it was a scam. I mean, it was such a bad operation, it might as well have scammed their donor. It might as well be called a scam with raising money from their donors, because they got nothing in return. 1 minute, Don, remember, we don't need to win Iowa. We're not going to Iowa. We're going to focus on New Hampshire. We're going to win New Hampshire, or come close. We're going to be strong. But when we get to South Carolina, we're going to win. And then it became clear that black voters weren't just going to vote for Kamala Harris because she is
she prosecuted the blacks
pretends
more
to
than
be an African American, because she's not. I mean, she's not African American. So pretending to be African American in South Carolina, when you have a record, like Laura just said, of prosecuting black and brown people at ridiculously high rates. But then when Gabby Tulsi Gabbard just put the stake in her, it was already incoherent. We're going to Iowa. We're not going to Iowa. We're going in. Laura's laughing hilarious. Because we all know it's impossible to talk about Kamala without evoking pictures of how she got to where she is. But, you remember this though, Don, right? They're not going to Iowa. Oh yeah, we're going to Iowa. We're not going to bother with New Hampshire. We're going. It was a crap show, and a nepotism crap show, by the way. And she's not capable of running the White House. I really believe that. I don't mean that I'm not trying to be nasty. It's just, Willie's not there to help you, and she wasn't a good senator. She wasn't a good campaigner, and she's not good at anything. So what exactly is
apparently she's good at something.
You're killing me here, guys. You're killing me.
Hey, all I'm saying is she's used to getting money for her donations.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how right. And it was Willie who even helped her when she was the district attorney, and then the attorney general. So he was So basically, without him, she wouldn't even be able to do that. And then her record of prosecutions was based on who donated to her. So she used the laws. She used her power and the law to pay back her donors. So it's like she wasn't even getting direction from herself there. She's just not competent to be president. She's not capable. Not even competent. Not capable of being an effective president.
One last thing I want to say on this, because the question by Neil about who's running the country and should people pound on that more. The proof of this is all you have to do is look at, for the last couple decades, who have been the power players on the left. It's been Hillary Clinton, establishment. It's been Chuck Schumer, establishment. It's been Nancy Pelosi. You can say she's a leftist and all that, but she's establishment. Yep. But they have been the spokespeople. So every time something happens, who do you see on TV? You see one of those three or all three of them, depending on how big of a deal it is. Do you see them anymore? Who do they go to now? They go to the Squad. They go to other people. So Nancy Pelosi has never looked weaker in her entire 100 years in politics. Same thing with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, I can't even tell you the last time I saw a clip of him. And Hillary Clinton, who's talking to Hillary Clinton? So she's toast. So if you want any proof that the establishment or the moderates or centrists have nothing to do with controlling this White House, that's all you need to know. And the media is not even playing the game anymore. They're going, yeah, let's just go talk to AOC or Tlaib or whoever. So
yeah, they lead Jen Psaki on, and the interview that Biden did do was I don't know, it was like teaching a child how to answer a question. I mean, because that's what they're doing. It's ridiculous. And they don't you mean so on this aren't you doing this, right? Like, it's a ridiculous they have no purpose anymore. It's embarrassing. This is, and we've lost so much moral authority, Don, and the treatment our government and our media and our political class, the treatment of from the treatment of Donald Trump to the treatment of the American people, right? Pulling lies, mass disinformation campaigns, the world laughing at us while authorities are telling their population. Look at Moral America lying to their population about Russia collusion. Look at Moral America prosecuting their political enemies. Look at Moral America running elections like a third world country. We're a joke. We're a joke now, Don. I hate to say it. I was saying it the other day, and I think we really need to come to grips with the fact that we're a freaking joke. We're just a joke. I don't think we can take China. I think they'd whoop us. I do. I'm not even sure we could take Russia. They're personally stronger.
And this all emboldens our enemies. And
it does,
that's
man.
exactly what it does.
It's sad.
So
I don't want to say this. It's sad.
This is just the beginning. I mean, you've got the Iran stuff, you've got the Israel stuff, you've got Russia, you've got China, you've got all those things going on in the first 100 days. So yeah, if he wants to talk about his accomplishments in the first 100 days, there you go. This is only the beginning, which is the really scary part.
CIA is too worried about what gender someone identifies with and their woke commercials. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's an embarrassment. We're a total embarrassment. Meanwhile, you have intelligence officers training the way they train in China. It's incredible. I mean, and watch, A teams were putting women on A teams. And they're teaching theirs how to do, backflips off of APC vehicles at 20 miles per hour. I'm not getting there. Crazy, man. It's awesome. Frankly, it's awesome. I mean, it's like, where's Rambo when you need him, buddy?
Since you brought that up,
it ain't Bambi,
I got to say this, since we talked about this and what's going on, like with the hacking of the pipeline and everything. I used to have a lot of confidence in the CIA and the FBI and all these things. Boy, I don't anymore. And I remember when President Trump first started kind of pounding on that stuff, and people were like, "Oh, that's un-American. You gotta, you can't say bad things about." I don't think they know anything about this. Who hacked the pipeline? I hope they do. I really do. But I'm at the point now where I don't have any confidence at all. Look at the whole debacle of the Russia collusion garbage, and they're just like, whoa, we don't know. So I'm really worried about that, about our intelligence community, and what do they really know? What are they able to find out? I mean, things are high tech now. Have we kept up with that? I don't know those things. So it really worries me what's going on with our intelligence communities, and I wish I had more faith in them. So please, if anybody from the intelligence community is listening, do something to rectify your reputation, because that's really important to security in this country. I mean, that's something that emboldens our enemies too, where they go, look at these guys. They don't even know what they're doing. So yeah,
they're too busy persecuting their political enemies, Don. They're climbing up telephone poles outside Trump Tower, instead of stopping any kind of cyber attack. They're banging down Rudy Giuliani's door, passing over Hunter's hard drives. I mean, this is what they do with their time. And yes, they're big agencies, sure. But you mentioned $30 million we spent. That's just the Mueller investigation we spent on that crap. Their A-team, their crack counterintelligence team, spent 6 months investigating political enemies instead of, I'm talking about the FBI's. They call them the A-team, not like it's play, of course, off an ODA in the Army, which I referred to before, right? They used their time and resources in the last 6 months before the Trump presidency to investigate what was looking like the incoming president, a candidate for high office that they didn't like. I mean, these are people who are supposed to be the top of the top counter intel in the FBI that is supposed to be protecting the country from foreign threats and even domestic threats. But as it turns out, of course, Donald Trump was never a domestic threat, and they missed everything. They missed mass shootings. They missed attacks. This is just, I don't know what's their purpose anymore. The CIA, how did you not see this? The NSA, they didn't catch any of these cyber attacks. No chatter done in the signal. No chatter in the signals. Nothing. They didn't catch up on any transmissions. Come on, man. Nothing about a major hack of a pipeline. You heard no whispers.
Look at the Mueller report. What the most used word in the most used word in the Mueller report was inconclusive. So it was inconclusive. So $30+ million, 3 years of them poring over everything, talking to everybody, supposedly, and inconclusive. Well, I could have done that. Send me $30 million and I'll send you back some mocked up report that tells you absolutely nothing and just says, I couldn't really tell. I'd rather have them, Rich, come to me and say, you know what? None of your business. It's top secret. I'd rather have them tell me that, because then at least I think they know. But when they tell me it's inconclusive.
With Durham and the CIA tapes under Obama. And none of us really got to see that report. That was all because that's the way special counsels go, by the way. They go to the Attorney General. The Attorney General shares it with the President, and that's it. What AG Barr did was unprecedented with the Mueller report. Unprecedented. All right? It's not the same as independent counsel. It's not Ken Starr. Different statute, different office, completely done away with after Ken Starr. The special counsel is something totally different. And it was unprecedented for the country to be put through this. It is not done like this. And it's certainly unprecedented to call the Attorney General's credibility into question when he comes out and says, look, it's a fraud. The president didn't collude with Vladimir Putin. And then major news outlets who put the fraud on everybody, casting aspersions on his character. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. When like you just said, when everybody knew, at best you would get words like conclusive, that there was certainly never going to be any evidence that any of that happened, because it didn't. It was all a lie. I mean, it's just crazy. It's 1:17. You want to get one more in here before we kick rocks?
Yeah. But I just want to say, somebody said, if I were king for the day, I would get rid of all the CIA, FBI, and whatnot. And I said, that's a great idea, but I'm sure you wouldn't live to see the next day.
You'd end up like JFK, and your wife would have your brains all over her lap, like poor what's her name? Jackie did.
Jackie.
Yep. And I mean, Truman even, when he started this, right? And he was like very worried about the national security apparatus that he created with that sign of a pen, basically, right? And then later on, Kennedy had very, very, very serious issues with them. And I think at some point presidents just gave up. I think at some point they just gave up and said, I can't control it. Sad.
All right, but I do have two. One, also somebody paid money for it, so I definitely want to ask it. But Hector, who doesn't ask questions often, question for Rich: wouldn't it be more useful for voter integrity to reform the electoral census? Voter ID is nice, but if non-citizens can vote, the thing is kind of a waste.
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck with that. I know what you're saying, but no, but it will never happen. They'll never do it. I know what you're saying, and in truth, non-citizens are supposed to not be able to vote. But motor voter gets around that. When we did do a study, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but we were asked to do a study on this. The number one way that illegal residents, illegal aliens, ended up on voter rolls was motor voter, and then the second one was reach out. They were contacted by a political entity and asked to if they wanted help registering to vote. And I mean, so it happens anyway. It really does. Now, that's why if we were to do the fingerprint or something like a verification like that, of course immigration status should be in there. Of course. And it would be. if it was tied in like an NCIS. It would be, Don, and we'd know, and then that would be the end of that, right? So you'd be flagged as ineligible to vote even if you were registered illegally. And that's what people, I should start bringing this saying back, Don, because we get in these conversations and people don't understand. Being registered to vote in the United States of America is not the same thing as being eligible to vote. There are a lot of people who are registered who legally are not eligible to vote. I know that's crazy, but one does not follow the other, is my point. And one does not make the other necessarily true. And yeah, I get what he's saying, but look at how much Trump got. Look at the pushback and how the courts failed Donald Trump when he attempted to simply reinstate a policy we had for over 200 years, which is to ask immigration status on the census. Look at what happened.
Yep.
Complete meltdown.
Just real quick, let me just kind of add something here. I think this is important to understand. When you see, like, we'll just take Georgia for example. So they're trying to improve the integrity of their voting process after what just happened. So immediately they go after it. 2 weeks before they even knew what was in that voting bill, they had already secured the domain Jim Crow.
Jim Crow. Yep.
So they were going to make it about racism. So they're not really, when they go after them for not giving people water in line or the voting hours, the polls are going to close at 5, which is a lie. When they go after those things, that's really not what they're protecting. What they're protecting is exactly what that question refers to. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they don't want to change the electorate because they like this, what's happening. Yes. They like this influx. There's a reason the border is wide open, despite what Mayorkas says that it's closed. We can all see it's not closed. But when they go after these things, that's really not their target. Their target is don't change anything. We've worked really hard to make it this way, and we're going to fight every single step that you go after because we know eventually you're going to do this.
That's right.
I think that's.
And the mere idea of voter fraud helps the left. Just the idea, so they love the status quo, keep the border open, and all of a sudden now, Don, it's racist to say that they want, it's some kind of, they went after Tucker on it, it's racist to state a plain and obvious truth and fact, which is that Democrats don't trust white people in the ballot box, and this is a fact. And want immigration to build a permanent underclass, voting underclass. And, this is now a racist concept. They even got a cute little name for it and everything, right? And the other day, if that's racist, by the way, then what are all these documentaries on HBO they're running right now about how evil of we are in America, right? What was the white man doing to the Native American man, right? It's like, I don't understand how you can acknowledge that as a historical fact, and it's not racist. But if you now acknowledge this as a historical fact, because it is a historical fact, then it's somehow a racist viewpoint. I mean, this is so, logic, and it doesn't even matter anymore. Being consistent doesn't even matter anymore. Like, the left can praise Liz Cheney after calling her her family war criminals for all these years, right? Robert Mueller, he was like the world's biggest threat to the Fourth Amendment after 9/11. And now he's a hero. Or was a hero until he failed them. But you know what I'm saying, right? Now George W. Bush, we need to try him at The Hague, op-ed, 2006, right? And now all of a sudden, he's the moral authority the Republican Party needs to listen to. There's just no consistency at all anymore.
Look at the Stacey Abrams thing. So so the whole Jim Crow 2.0, the moniker, the bumper stickers, all the things, they did all this stuff. And it's racist, so you better do something. She never once thought that the Major League Baseball was going to pull the All-Star game out. She just wanted to use it as a beating stick, and everybody was going, oh, look at Stacey standing up for our community, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? They did. And now I would like to know what her approval rating is within the Atlanta area. with her, these are her voters. This is her community that dominates that area. But she never thought that they would actually use that and do something about it. So she thought she was safe. Now she's like, oh no, I didn't want you to leave. Oh, no, come back. Now, too late. So there's a little bit of karma in there, and it's kind of interesting to watch that play out.
It is a little bit of karma. It is, yeah, for sure.
It's their rules.
With that in mind, it's 1:24. Don, what do we got going on this weekend? Tell everybody what we got going on before we kick rocks here.
So, we're going to be going over basically all these things that are going on. Some of the things that we just talked about here, we're going to be talking about the vulnerability of our country with the pipeline. I'm going to play some of the clips from Victoria, and it was such a great interview, so I'll play some of that. So we've got a lot of stuff. I'm working on some things here today, putting together some interviews. So right now, I'm not sure, aside from you, who else I'm going to have on, but I'll have somebody. I'm looking at maybe Gordon Chang to talk a little bit about the vulnerabilities of America when it comes to China. Because let's be honest, we don't know that China didn't do this. We don't know who did it.
Immediately, everybody blames Russia. Yeah, we're guessing, folks. This is a guess.
That's what scares me.
It's a freaking guess.
To my comment earlier about our intelligence community, that's what scares me. But so we're going to be talking about a lot of those things. I'm going to play a clip of walking my daughter down the aisle. So it was kind of cool. It was a great moment for me.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks. So that was really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a great show tomorrow at noon Eastern time. DonSmithShow.com. You can find me there, but better yet, find me on Locals Don Smith Show community. So excited about tomorrow.
All right, sounds good, my friend. As always, thanks for joining us. And yeah, I say, congratulations. From Laura.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. And it got me watching you. It got me to thinking. Because I got mine is 9, and I just it's gonna happen one day. It's gonna happen, and God bless you, man. God bless you. And it's good. You look happy. And I hope I'm happy. With
you won't be. You'll be miserable crying.
No, but I mean, like, happy at least with her choice, and what the life she's going to build for herself.
Well, I don't think he'd be able to live to walk down the aisle.
Yeah, because otherwise, I don't think, and that person wouldn't live, and then Daddy couldn't walk her down the aisle with the next one because he'd be serving 20 to life. That's it. That's really where I'm at when it comes to my daughter, man.
You'll be zooming in from your prison cell.
I'll be like, join peoplespundit.locals.com behind bars.
I'll run it from here, baby, for you.
Excellent. I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. Thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you at noon tomorrow, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All the best. Don Smith, ladies and gentlemen, from the Don Smith Show. Check him out tomorrow, of course.
We love him.
We love him. And it's noon Eastern time on Locals on YouTube. And we'll, of course, be me. Y'all tweet it out when before the show. All right?
Have a
fantastic and safe weekend. All right? We will talk more about, for the Locals community, we'll talk more about the next Zoom meeting, which I think we're going to do Thursdays. Is that the way it's going to be?
That sounds cool.
Yeah, may not be every Thursday. Maybe we'll shift it to a Tuesday one day just to be flexible to some other people. Yeah. But it definitely is going to be a little bit later, and that's something we'll decide as a community when that's going to be. All right? But, of course, follow me on Twitter, @peoples_pundit. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. All right. If you don't, hit the thumbs down. That's called free will. All right. And with that, I'm going to kick rocks. peoplespundit.locals.com, folks. And am I missing anything? I don't think so. Not missing any promotions. The public polling project is all the other thing I forgot. It is Friday, May 14th. So we got about a week and a half, maybe, something like that, to try to put this together. All right, so it's in the link in the description. It's also on Big Data Poll. All right, bigdatapoll.com/public polling project. And have a great and have a safe weekend. All right, and we will see you on Monday. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love? Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of